Hey, good evening all. Try to recall the features of parliamentary system. What all did we study? What is the first feature? Dual head. Matlab obviously, so you will have two heads. One is president, who is head of the state, and prime minister, who is head of the government. You can call it by different names: nominal executive, real executive, de jure executive, de facto executive. Basically, president has actually theoretically more power. Practically, PM will take all the decisions. Then dual membership. In simple words, what do you mean by dual membership? To be part of executive. Matlab, if you want to become a minister in India, what you should be? You should be an MP. That's what you call it as. To be part of executive, one should be part of legislature also. Remember the diagram? So wherein you had two circles. So that is one. Then the third one, majority party will rule. Means if you want to get to power, the party should have more than 50% number in which house? Only in the lower house. Remember that is Rajya Sabha's numbers do not matter for us. It is only about the lower house. Fine. So next one, the what do you call it? The most important feature. Which is the most important feature of parliamentary system? Collective responsibility. Collective responsibility means, in simple words, executive, or in other words, even the ministers will be questioned in the legislature for their actions. Fine. There are too many ways of questioning. Right from you might have heard words like question hour, 0 hour, so and then adjournment motion, no confidence motion, like that. Bahut sara hai, but in general, take it as they will be questioned in the legislature. Collective responsibility. Fine. Article 75. This is the foundation or the most important feature of parliamentary system. Fine. Then the prime minister's leadership. In other words, PM will be the head of the government. That's what you call it as that. Then political homogeneity is also obvious because it all is derived. These three features are linked. Majority party rule, prime minister's leadership, and political homogeneity are all interlinked with each other. Then another one, which dissolution of the lower house. So lower house means at present at the national level, Lok Sabha. At the state level, lower house means same logic use. Which house then? Assembly. So state level assembly. So when can you dissolve? Obviously, because the term is 5 years. Before 5 years, any time you can dissolve it. What is the ground on which you can dissolve? There is no ground mentioned in the constitution. What is the consequence? Matlab result kya hota hai if you dissolve it? Yeah, the only option is you have to go for general election. Who will dissolve it? President. Not on his own. How? Advice of the Council of Ministers. Fine. And normally what he does, even if the Council of Ministers advises it, what will he do before dissolving? He will check if anybody else can get together and form the government. If the answer is yes, you should give opportunity to them. If the answer is no, then what you have to do? Then okay, fine. That means nobody is able to form, we'll do it. We'll go for the general election. But meanwhile, what will happen? There is a concept called as caretaker, prime minister, everything. That let's not discuss it. Maybe in some other chapter we'll discuss it. Fine. So that is the basis of it. So when you dissolve all those things, secrecy is that. Secrecy is not a specific feature of it because the ministers will take the oath of secrecy, all those things. That anyhow we discuss. Council of Ministers will discuss it again. Yeah. So yesterday when we were discussing Constituent Assembly, those small, some 3-4 facts we have forgotten to mention. So we can go and mention. Again, not very important facts, but you can. Constituent Assembly, matlab making of Constitution mein, so like some 3-4 facts. Not very important, so factual sake. Making of Constitution. The first one is elephant was the symbol of the Constituent Assembly. Elephant was the symbol of strength. Elephant was the symbol of Constituent Assembly. Symbol of Constituent Assembly. Then, obviously just a basic point again, the original constitution was drafted in which language? English, not in Hindi. So please write that. Original constitution was drafted in English. Original constitution was drafted in English. And who wrote that? It was drafted by Prem Bihari Narayan Raizada. This was the English version. Prem Bihari Narayan Raizada. Then the Hindi version was drafted by, then they drafted it to Hindi also. Hindi version was drafted by Vasant Krishna Vaidya. Hindi version was drafted by Vasant Krishna Vaidya. Vasant Krishna Vaidya. Then both the versions were illuminated, matlab designed. Both the versions were decorated by artists from Shanti Niketan. Both the versions were decorated. If you see there, in the original constitution, they have written so many kind of diagrams also. The original version, both the versions were calligraphed, or you can say decorated, illuminated by artists from Shanti Niketan. Decorated by artists from Shanti Niketan. These are just few facts. Fine. Okay, now come back. So put the heading, let's write some features about presidential system. Features of presidential system. Come back to parliamentary system chapter. Features of presidential system. Completely reverse it, that's it. Features of presidential system. So there you wrote dual head. So here reverse it, single head. Features of presidential system, single head. Means what? President is both head of the state as well as head of the government. He is both the nominal head as well as the real head. President is both head of the state. President is both head of the state as well as head of the government. Nominal head as well as real head. Head of the state as well as head of the government. Fine, that is single head. So there you write dual membership, again reverse single membership. Single membership. Single membership. So that means what? One can only be part of one organ. The description we have already mentioned separately. One can only be part of one organ, single membership. One can only be part of one organ. Fine. Then, no need of majority in the lower house. No need. If you have it, it's okay, but that doesn't matter. That is not the base. No need of majority party or no need of majority in lower house. No need of majority in lower house. Again, just to give a idea, because we are in the beginning. In US, they call it as, like how we call it as parliament, they call it as Congress. Again, divide, it also has two houses. One is House of Representatives. Second one is, like how we call in India legislature as parliament, in US they use the term Congress. Just a term. So US legislature has two houses again, House of Representatives, House of Senate. Lower house, this is like India's Lok Sabha, this is like India's, that's it, as simple as that. If you didn't know, please note down. So there is no need to have majority in House of Representatives. If you have it, it's okay, but that doesn't matter for us in presidential system. Like for example, I think even now I am not, you go cross verify. Like who is the US president now? Joe Biden. So before that, Donald Trump. So when Donald Trump was the president, so actually he belongs to Republican party. Matlab US may be two major parties. One is Democrat, one is Republican. So Republican party, Donald Trump, Republican party. But in House of Representatives, Democrats was in majority. It is like telling what? BJP is in power, but Congress is in majority in Lok Sabha. You can't imagine that in India because we follow separate system called as majority party rule. Whichever party has more than 50% seats in Lok Sabha, same party should be in power in India because we follow parliamentary system. Remember, yeah, that's the basic point. No need of majority in the lower house. The next one. Next is no collective responsibility. No collective responsibility. No collective responsibility, and as the name itself says, it means executive, there actually ministers, they don't use the word ministers, they call it as secretaries, defense secretary, home secretary, state secretary of state, like that. It means the executive will not attend the legislature, they cannot come and sit there because they are not members of it. It means the executive cannot attend the legislature. So when they cannot attend, what you cannot also do it. Hence they cannot be questioned in legislature. Executive do not attend the legislature and hence cannot be questioned by legislature. And hence cannot be questioned by legislature. Of course, you can't remove them also. Remember, in India we have a concept called as no confidence motion. Matlab, when you move a no confidence motion and if you show that the party in power does not have the majority support, you can throw them out. Matlab, you can remove them. In US there is no such concept. You cannot remove them so easily. In simple words, in US once the party gets elected as presidentship they get, 4 years is more than obvious. Most of the times 99.99% they'll complete it. The only exception is either they have to resign or impeachment. Matlab, you have to remove the president. And removing the president is not so easy. That's why they'll. But in India, any time numbers may change. Because let us say, for example, you have 280 members. You might have seen in so many states. Matlab, last year, look at Maharashtra case, what happened? So Uddhav Thackeray was CM. All of a sudden, remember that for 35, 40 MLAs shifted, the party shifted in the sense, they said that we will support BJP. Automatically what happened? You lost your power. Then the BJP plus Eknath Shinde group came to power. Like that in US it cannot happen. Because there is no need of majority party. There is no need of majority in the lower house. That is the idea. Clear? Okay. So we'll get to that. Many, multiple times we'll discuss that no confidence motion, everything. Okay. So there is no collective responsibility. The next one. Lower house cannot be dissolved. Lower house means which one? House of Representatives. I mean, we are telling in presidential system. Lower house cannot be dissolved. That provision is not there. Lower house cannot be dissolved. Lower house cannot be dissolved. If you want, you can write by the president. Lower house cannot be dissolved by the president. So again, that option you don't have. Lower house cannot be dissolved by the president. Clear? There is another one. Then next one. Presidential system is based on the principle of separation of power. Presidential system. This system is based on principle of separation of power. That means that is the base of it. For parliamentary, collective responsibility is the base. For presidential, which one is base? Separation of power is the base. Presidential system is based on the principle of SOP, separation of power. Fine, rigid. That's why we keep telling, in India we don't follow, in US they follow rigid separation of power. Rigid ka matlab, very strictly they follow. But in India, we follow flexible separation of power. Because what? Look at the organ itself. You can be part of two organs. Ideally, when you say rigid separation of power, one person cannot be part of two organs. But in India, we don't do that. So like that, many are there. We'll discuss gradually. Okay, now let's put the heading. Advantages of parliamentary system. Because as I said, every system has its own advantage and disadvantage. First, let's understand what are the advantages of parliamentary system. As we kept on telling, what is the first major advantage? Collective responsibility. Advantages of parliamentary system. The first major one, collective responsibility. Collective responsibility. Fine, as the name itself says, advantages of parliamentary system. First one is collective responsibility. It means executive will be questioned in the legislature. It means executive will be questioned in the legislature. Executive will be questioned in the legislature using various tools like as I said, question hour. Those differences we will not discuss it now because that is part of your parliament chapter. Using question hour, 0 hour, no confidence motion, question hour, 0 hour, no confidence motion, etc. No confidence motion, etc. Fine, that is collective responsibility. 2. Coordination between legislature and executive. They can work together. Coordination, harmony. Coordination between executive and legislature. Coordination between legislature and executive. Coordination between legislature and executive. Again, as the name itself says, as executive is part of legislature, as the executive is part of legislature, it can defend its policies, its decisions. It means here executive. As the executive is part of legislature, it can defend its policies and decisions in the legislature. It can defend its policies and decisions in legislature. Fine. That, however, remember that. Look at how in US what will happen. Executive is not part of legislature. Matlab kya? Remember, let's say Republican person is president, but House of Representatives mein Democrats party is in majority. Now, whatever the president wants to do, what will the representatives do? Check. Everything check means they will not pass in simple terms. Anything you want to do, ultimately if you want to pass a bill means as of now, okay, that's the basic one. Again, in the basic classes obviously you have to tell all these things. Remember, we keep using different terms, but as of now, till we discuss the details, take it like this. When will the bill become act? It is simple, this equation. Bill will become an act after the president's assent. Assent का मतलब होता है signature, sign. So after president's signature, bill will become an act. When will the president give the signature? After Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha have passed it. So first bill, then it has to be passed by legislature, then it has to be passed by or signed by a president, then it will become. Fine. In US what will happen, where presidential system, in India what will happen, if you have observed, the minister will come in the legislature and then introduce the bill. How can he do it? Because minister is part of what? Minister is part of legislature, he is also an MP, he will come there, he will stand there and then he will introduce the bill. But in US, those ministers cannot come to the legislature. Reason? They are not part of the legislature, then who has to introduce? The House members themselves have to introduce. Here the bills are not initiated by ministers in US. The House members themselves will initiate. Legislature will initiate, not the ministers. In India, ministers will initiate because they will come, stand there and introduce. You might have seen, you look at the very famous budget speech. So who gives the budget in India? Nirmala Sitharaman, finance minister. Their budget might be an exception. They will draft and put it in the legislature. That's it. In India, the finance minister will come, discuss all those things. So many issues are there. So basically, that is the point. So here, in India, executive will get an opportunity because they have the numbers. They can defend. In the US, it is completely different. Legislature itself will initiate the bill. Both House of Representatives and Senate have to pass. Finally, it will go to the President. Final signature of the President here, but because he is also the nominal executive in US. Got it? That's the basic idea. So that is harmony between legislature and executive. No. There are so many options. It is not so easy. There is a concept called as veto. Article 111. So there are different vetoes, like there is something called as absolute veto, pocket veto, suspensive veto, like that. Simple words, it is not binding. Multiple options are there, but we will discuss. Anyhow, the concept of bills will come, the concept of president will come there. Fine, okay. So that is advantage. Third advantage, parliamentary system. Prevents concentration of power. Prevents concentration of power in one individual. Prevents concentration of power. Prevents concentration of power in one individual. Prevents the concentration of power in one individual. Fine. Sir, what does that mean? Take again the same one. Take US. What did we tell? They have a single head. So who is the head? President. And what did we also tell? He is both nominal as well as real. He is the head of the state as well as head of the government. Matlab power is concentrated in whom? Power is concentrated in the president. He will take all the decisions. Look at in India, what we call it as political executive. Fine, same one. In India, political executive means broadly call it as COM. COM means Council of Ministers. Council means group of ministers. Within this group of ministers, there are different types, if you have heard. First one are called as cabinet ministers. They are the most important ministers. Then there is a concept called Minister of State. Then again, even within that, there is a concept called as independent charge. Then Minister of State. Then there is also a concept called as Deputy Minister. So there are different types of ministers. But who are the most important ministers? Cabinet ministers. On an average, we will discuss all these things. On an average, ministers will be somewhere around 50 to 60 in India. At the national level, I am telling, not at the state level. National level, around 50 to 60% will be our ministers. Fine. Out of that, maximum 10 to 15 will be cabinet ministers. So which includes, obviously, who are the most important? The Prime Minister, Finance Minister, Defence Minister, Home Minister, External Affairs, Railways, Agriculture. So most of the important ministers will be part of your cabinet. That's why we keep calling, they take all the decisions. Hence, parliamentary system is also called as cabinet system. Because who is taking the most important decisions? Cabinet ministers. But in US, the name itself says presidential system, means who is taking major important decisions? President, concentration of power. Got a brief idea? Yeah, so there, some other details are there, we'll discuss one after the other. So we have just put the heading right. Prevents concentration of power in one individual. Tell what does that mean? In US, or you can say in presidential system, president is both president is both nominal as well as real executive. President is both the nominal as well as real executive. Hence, all the power is concentrated in one authority, one office. Hence, President is both the real as well as nominal head, or head of the state as well as head of the executive. Hence, the power is concentrated in one person, one office. Fine. However, in parliamentary system, cabinet is the ultimate decision making authority. In parliamentary system, cabinet is the ultimate decision making authority. Cabinet is the ultimate decision making authority. Fine, that means what? It is not in one individual, it is what? Group of individuals, not just cabinet, matlab kya? Look at it. So at least around 10, 12, 15 members will be there. Fine, in margin you can also write. Hence, parliamentary system is also called cabinet cabinet system. So look at various names. Parliamentary system is called as responsible system, Westminster system, and cabinet system also. Hence parliamentary system is also called cabinet system or cabinet government, whatever. So this basic idea you keep it in mind. When we discuss Council of Ministers, we'll discuss the details. Fine, that is another advantage. Then next advantage, readily available government. Readily available government. Next advantage, readily available government. Readily available government. Now you look at Maharashtra case itself. So from Uddhav Thackeray, now who has become CM, Eknath Shinde has become CM. Did they conduct election in between? They did not conduct election. What did they do? The numbers changed. 4 parties are there. First some parties was together. Now some other parties are together. Now they'll keep on continuing. In US you will not have such concept itself. Because in US it is only depending on president. Here it depends on your numbers. It is like similar, it is simple like this. Fine. Let us say for example, some lower house, Lok Sabha exam, just for an example I am telling. Let us say the strength is 100. Fine. Now to form the government, what is the minimum numbers you need? 51. Let us say there are 4 important parties, A, B, C and D. Now everybody, it's like this. 30, 30, 20, 25, 25. Now can any one party form the government here? No one party can form the government. Either B and C, A and B have to get together, or B and C have to get together, or some 3 parties have to get together. Now in Maharashtra case it is as simple as this. Though not, there is a concept called as merger, anti-defection law, everything. Let us say earlier these 2 were together. Now some differences happen. Now what they have done is, they have got together. Let's say again some differences happens. Who knows? They can get together. Anything can happen in India. This is the parliamentary system. The basic point is what? You should get this number. Who are getting together? That's left to you. Sir, can Congress and BJP get together and form the government? Obviously yes. Sir, can BJP and Communist Party, BJP is what? There, far right, here this is far left. Can they get together? Anything can happen. That is left to them. We can't decide it. If they are ready to work together, we can't help. That is basic idea of you just have to get those particular 50% plus 1 number you need. Let anybody get together, it doesn't matter to us. That's what you call it as readily available government. You don't have to conduct elections in between, just get together and form it. Clear? Yeah, please write what do you mean by that. It means there is no need of general elections. There is no need of general elections. There is no need of general election if the party in power loses no confidence motion. There is no need of general election. General election I have told you. General means conducting elections for all the seats. There is no need of general election if party in power loses majority, loses no confidence motion. If the party in power loses the no confidence motion. So then what is the option then? Other parties can get together and form the government anytime. Other parties can get together. Other parties can get together and form government anytime. Other parties can get together and form the government anytime. Fine? So that is the basic idea. Then it represents, next another advantage, parliamentary system. It represents the diversity. Represents the diversity of the society. Represents the diversity of the society, which is not always true, but in general you can say. Represents the diversity of the society. Present the diversity of society. So what do you mean by that? Very simple. Like for example, you look at your council of ministers. There are so many types, right from your cabinet minister to minister of state to deputy minister and all those things. And look at the option that the prime minister has. Prime minister has to pick a minister from MP team itself. Whoever are MPs, within them you have to pick, because executive should be part of legislature. Automatically, if you are, and most of the ministers belong to which house? Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. Lok Sabha only, because strength is more and they are more popular, you have to. Very few will be from Rajya Sabha, maybe about 10% or 15% might be from Rajya Sabha. Most of them will be from Lok Sabha. Now the moment you are from Lok Sabha, that means what? People have elected you. That means you are representing people diversity. In simple words, if you look at Council of Ministers at present, even the Narendra Modi's government, if you look at it, you will have ministers from all the regions of the country. You will have ministers from North India, South India, Northeast. So from all the sections you will have. That is what you call it as what? Representative of the diversity of the society. Which is not always true, because you may not have it also. For example, you may have very, very less women. Women contribute almost around 50% of population. That doesn't mean number of ministers will also be 50%, not necessary. Right? For example, Muslims will be somewhere around 15 or 17% of population. That doesn't mean proportionate number of ministers will also belong to Muslim community, not necessary. But chances are very high. Well, for very simple reason, Prime Minister should pick a minister from Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Now, if you are already part of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, iska matlab kya hai? You are elected by people, so you represent their interest. US में क्या होता है? It's a presidential system. President can pick any expert from a university. He can pick them. So continue as finance minister. He can pick an economist and make him as finance minister. He can pick a security expert, make him as defense minister. In India, it is not so easy, because even if you pick him, what they should become part of then? They should become part of legislature within how many months? 6 months. So ultimately, one or other way, you are representing people's diversity. In US, not necessary. For example, he can pick a very good, what do you call as this, medicine expert as health minister in US. In India, not necessary. Anybody can become minister. That is a disadvantage we have in India. We'll discuss disadvantage, we have still not come to that. So this is the basic point. Prashant Kishore was not a minister.
But in that scenario, US government, he can be a political assist, or he can be part of government.
Anybody can be part of, yes. In presidential, in US it is very simple, because president has to just pick you.
But not in Indian scenario.
In India, even if they pick you, like for example, take Jaishankar example. Jaishankar is the best example. Now who is the external affairs minister? What was he obviously as a career? He was an Indian foreign servant. He retired as the external affairs secretary. Now he is an expert. You directly pick him, make him as external affairs minister. But even then, what he should become? He has to become an MP within 6 months. Fine, but US, you don't have to become a part of legislature. So in India, chances are less like that. For example, very simple example, you look at your state governments and you go look at who is your minister of education. You look at first of all their education qualification. Is it a guarantee that, or is it like, let's say, mandatory that you should have like PhD, you should have studied in IITs, AIMS, IIM, is there anything like that? Obviously there is nothing. Fine, like let's say you look at your Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, national level at least it is always better. Look at your state level, Minister of Health and Family Welfare. Or you look at your ministry, who introduced the budget, finance minister. Finance ministers of the state governments don't know anything about finance, economics. But still they can become finance ministers, because there is no rule. But in US, they will pick experts. In India, you may, if both combines, it's your luck. But there is no mandatory. That is the differences. That will write it as a loophole. First, let's write it as an advantage.
Is it mandatory to have a opposition party in Lok Sabha?
No, not mandatory. It is left to the people. For example, out of 543, if all the 543 seats are won by BJP, then you will not have majority. But you have to think practically. If every seat is won by BJP, that means there is something wrong in the system. How can all the 100% seats will be won by one party? The maximum majority that we have till now is won by Rajiv Gandhi, which was somewhere around 410 or 415, I think, 418. Okay, 418 seats. It is almost around 70% maybe, 60, 65 maybe, two-third, more than two-third. That itself is a huge number. Imagine out of 543, 418. Another 150, 60, you cross 500 members will be one part. How will the Lok Sabha function then? Matlab checks and balances ka hai. So for a democracy, always understand an effective opposition is very, very important. Because if you don't have an effective opposition, there is nobody literally to check the government. Whatever they do will be right then. Right? This is one of the major loophole at present also, because you don't have effective, people are not giving that numbers to any other party. So Congress itself is the second party which has less than 50 seats. How will you question? Even in legislature, if you don't know, like Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, mein obviously they will speak, right? There to allocate time is allocated based on your numbers in the house. If you have more numbers, you will get more time to speak. If you have less numbers, gone. Where will you question the government then?
So Nagaland elections, second time election has happened and there is no opposition. BJP and NCP sitting beside them.
What is the number in Nagaland mein for?
Sir, everyone is in party now.
Everyone.
Communist, NCP, BJP.
So then how should the legislature function now? Matlab, who will question you?
There is back-to-back second time.
Yeah, I got it. If you have that, then absolutely it is gone. Democracy is gone.
So if the opposition is effective, but it doesn't get a chance or certain amount of media coverage, then whose fault is this?
Then it is the fault of the media, then it is the fault of the people. Because people are not choosing, putting that kind of pressure on the media then. Or media themselves, so many issues are there. There is a concept called as corporatization of media, politicization of media, everything.
So in that scenario, how will we justify the fourth?
Yes, it is question in that context. If what you are telling has happened, I am not saying it has happened. If in case it happens, yes, democracy is under threat. Correct. If in case, I know what he is trying to ask, but I can't tell that all those things. So basically, if that is an issue, yes, democracy is under threat. If in case that is happening, I am not saying it is happening. Fine. If there is an issue like that, yes, it's a criticism. Here, okay, let's write the point. It represents the diversity of the society. Clarify. Ministers have to belong to the legislature. Ministers have to belong to the legislature. Hence, they represent the diversity of society. Ministers have to belong to the legislature. Hence, they represent the diversity of society. Hence, they represent the diversity of society. Fine. So these are broadly the advantages. For every advantage, you have a disadvantage. So put that heading now. Disadvantages of parliamentary system, demerits. Disadvantages of parliamentary system. Disadvantages of parliamentary system. So what is the first advantage you have written? Collective responsibility. Correct? Same concept. For that you write a negative. Instability of the government. Disadvantage or demerits. Instability of the government. Instability of the government. Instability means anytime government will be removed. That's the point. Because look at the Maharashtra case. Yeah, please mention that. It means using tools like no confidence motion. Using the tools, instruments like no confidence motion. Using the tools like no confidence motion, the party in power can anytime. Using the tools like no confidence motion, the party in power can be removed anytime. The party in power can be removed anytime. Party in power can be removed anytime.
So like in 2019 when Kamal Nath was become the CM of MP at that time, so Shivraj Singh Chauhan just become the CM.
Yes, many incidents are there. No, that is where you are bringing the concept of what speakers politicization, governor ka issue. In general, what I am telling is, like Maharashtra case, you look at it. Just no conference motion, matlab, numbers change, party in power change, instability. This especially happens in a coalition era. Coalition era when, remember this, the same one. What is that point I wrote? Remember the 30, all those things we wrote? This kind of a one. Anytime the party in power may change. Automatically what will happen? There is instability. You never know when you are in power. Tomorrow, few MLAs will change, your party is gone. That is what you call it as and if there is instability in the government, there is instability in the laws. You cannot take decisions quickly. For example, during Manmohan Singh time, I think I told you that very famous called as compulsions of coalition. But if whatever he wanted to take a decision, so Mamata Banerjee will tell something, a DMK will tell something, some other party will tell something, yes, Samajwadi party will tell, you can't take a decision at all. If you try to go ahead, what will they do? They will just tell, I am not going to support your party. For example, the Manmohan Singh wanted to introduce FDI in multi-brand retail. And Mamata Banerjee told, if you go ahead with this, I am going to take back my support. You can't go ahead. There was this India-Bangladesh river, Teesta river water agreement. Teesta is a river which flows through both. He had almost finalized. He was in Bangladesh and the issue was almost finalized. And then Mamata Banerjee said, if you go ahead with the treaty, I am going to take back my support. He did not sign the agreement. From then on, I think it happened in 2012. So it's what, like 10, the agreement is still not signed. The same land boundary agreement we keep telling, India and Bangladesh land boundary agreement, 100th constitutional amendment. We'll discuss when we discuss union and territories. That was also finalized by Manmohan Singh. At that time, he could not pass it, reason TMC again opposed it. Then finally after Narendra Modi got the majority, 1 or 2 years later, so they somehow managed to convince Mamata Banerjee and pass it as 100th constitutional amendment. So like that many issues are there. For example, the LTT issue was going on once. You know LTT, the Tamils, all those things I have told you, the Sri Lankan issue. So the Sri Lankan army had fought a huge, very war they had fought against LTT. They had killed, completely eliminated, including the leader Prabhakaran. There was an allegation that the Sri Lankan army has committed Tamil genocide. Tamil genocide means deliberately Sri Lankan army has identified the Tamils and most of them they have tried to eliminate. Simple word, skill. Huge issue internationally, everything. And remember, Tamil Nadu, the Tamil connection is very, very strong. Even looking at from here also Delhi. So I don't know how you look at the Tamil, South politics, Tamil politics, everything. There it's a very, very strong identity. Dravidian identity, Tamil identity. Yeah, so then what happened? So those people told, that means DMK party was there. You might have heard a leader called as Karunanidhi. So Karunanidhi was a partner, that means coalition, he was a partner of Manmohan Singh government, UPA 2. Fine. And Karunanidhi only said one thing. There was a meeting going on related to Commonwealth. Remember, you have Commonwealth nations. Yesterday, Commonwealth nations meeting was going on in Colombo. And normally the practice is the Prime Minister should go and attend the meeting whenever it happens across the world. That's a tradition, that's a practice. That's what it is called as Commonwealth heads of the government. So basically Manmohan Singh had to go. And Karunanidhi, if you go to Sri Lanka, he said you have to openly criticize the Sri Lankan army that they have committed Tamil genocide in the official statement. How will you tell it in official statement? In official statement, if you tell, will the Sri Lankan government keep silent saying, yes, you have freedom of speech and expression, please go ahead. Why will any government agree to that? And of course, Manmohan Singh said, no, I can't do this. How can I go as a prime minister talk about? He said, how can I talk about a regional issue in international, I think it was. on. Okay, so those are all various issues related to how they may have to compromise, compulsions of coalition. But when you have a majority party in power, those issues will not be there. That's what we are trying to say. Clear? Yeah, did we explain that point or did you just wrote the heading? First disadvantage is instability. I think we have written that. So that party in power keeps on changing. Yeah, second advantage, what have you written? Advantage. Coordination between legislature and executive. Here, what is the disadvantage then? Dominance of executive in legislature. Dominance of executive in legislature. Means because, look, the very simple one, which I have told multiple times, dominance of executive in legislature. So they will clarify all those things, Diksha, so just please go through the class. They will mention all those details about the admission issues, whatever. Don't worry. What was I telling? Dominance of executive in legislature. Tell what do you mean by that? It means the party in power, will have majority in lower house. The party in power will have majority in lower house. Party in power will have majority in lower house. Hence, they cannot be questioned effectively. Hence, they cannot be questioned effectively in Lok Sabha. In Rajya Sabha, it's a different matter. Hence, they cannot be questioned effectively in Lok Sabha. They cannot be questioned effectively in Lok Sabha. Fine, that is a point. Imagine what will happen if the same party is in power, is in majority in Rajya Sabha also then. That means, let's say in Lok Sabha the same BJP is in more than 300 numbers. Let's say something happens, because of numbers, Rajya Sabha also BJP has more than 50% numbers. President also belongs, where is the check then? Who will question you? Sir, media will question. Media has, as he is again, media has its own issues. Where is the check and balance then? Yeah, Supreme Court should be the only one, but Supreme Court, how many cases will it look into that? Supreme Court cannot look into each and every small thing. Supreme Court has a lot of limitations. You can't go for each and every case there. In landmark cases, you may go there. That's it. So like that, that's why we keep telling. So that law and action statement, you should not give complete power to anybody. You should always have a check. Fine. That is second. Then what is the third advantage if you have mentioned? Huh? Who is asking a question? Huh? Correct.
So what is the element which ensures the responsibility of the executive? Because they can refuse to be responsible.
No, they cannot refuse to be responsible. For example, there is question hour, there is 0 hour, wo sab hai. Obviously, there the ministers will be questioned. Let us say, for example, if the legislature is still not happy, they can, like let's say, for example, in Lok Sabha you neglected them. In Rajya Sabha they will block the bill. If they block the bill, how will you get the bills passed? If they block the bill, matlab they did not pass the bill. How will the bill become an act? Sir, what is the need of becoming, if you don't pass it as an act, you cannot implement it. So then what is the use of staying in power then? Ultimately, if you are staying in power means you should be able to do something. And they will not even allow you to do something then. So that's the loophole. Now because of anti-defection law, this is again questioned. Okay, I will not talk about anti-defection law now, we'll come to that gradually. Okay, so that third disadvantage.
Aadhaar was introduced like money bills.
Correct. So for example, there is a concept called as money bill, you might have heard. There are different types of bills, ordinary bill, money bill, financial bill, one constitution amendment bill, like that. Money bill means in simple terms, as the name itself says, deals with money. So basically according to the constitution under article 110, money bill should be passed only in Lok Sabha. I am just keeping as simple because we have still not discussed money bill, only Lok Sabha should pass it. There was this Aadhaar bill, Aadhaar, whatever we have the others one, actually Aadhaar, they had already introduced, 100 crore people were already given Aadhaar because it was started by Nandan Nilekani, the Infosys co-founder in 2009-2010, Manmohan Singh time they had started. But Congress did not pass it through the legislature. They somehow skipped it. Then what they realized was this Aadhaar is very important because they started to link to all the schemes. Means remember, if you want to get Narega wages, link it to Aadhaar, bank account, link it to Aadhaar, passport, link it to Aadhaar, everything they started, SIM card you have to link it to Aadhaar, everything they started to link to Aadhaar. Then people started to question, how can you use Aadhaar to such an extent without getting the permission of Parliament? Sir, why should I get the permission of Parliament? Because that is the basis. In any democracy, you should ask the people's permission before you do something very important. You can't go and ask every person. Can you go and ask 140 crore people? When will you ask? Then you have to conduct referendum then. That's why what they do, if you can't ask people directly, you should ask their representatives. And where do you have their representatives? Legislature. So go and get it passed by the legislature. Now what they did, actually it should be passed by, ideally it should have been passed by both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. But what is the BJP's trick? In Rajya Sabha it was not in majority. That's why what they said, we will Rajya Sabha block the bill. Block matlab they did not pass it. If they don't pass it, you can't use Aadhaar then. So they used a trick. What is the trick? Tell that Aadhaar bill is a money bill. So if you make it as a money bill, who should pass? Only Lok Sabha should pass. In Lok Sabha, obviously, who is in majority? The party in power is in majority. Get it passed. President should give the signature. Who is president? So this was one of the many issues which have been controversial. So that case went to Supreme Court also. Those are all. Let's keep it to money bill, Parliament chapter. As of now, let's stick to the core. So please question and mention other criticism. Concentration of power in Prime Minister. Concentration of power in Prime Minister. Concentration of power in Prime Minister. Fine, mention the reason, we'll talk about it. If the Prime Minister is very powerful, if PM is very powerful, then parliamentary system is considered as or is criticized as. If PM becomes very powerful, then the parliamentary system is criticized as prime ministerial system. Then the parliamentary system is criticized as prime ministerial system. Prime ministerial system. That means it depends on how popular is the PM. For example, Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi governments were prime ministerial systems. For example, Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi governments. Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi governments were prime ministerial systems. Means all the power concentrated in PM, they will decide who will become minister, they will decide who will become chief ministers, everything literally they will decide. Because they were very powerful PMs. They were popular also, they had the numbers also, and they had a kind of knowledge wise, everything also they can balance. It's a look at Manmohan Singh. He might be knowledgeable, he might work well, but what is he not? He is not a powerful person, he is not a popular person also. That's why he could not even get through Lok Sabha. He came through which house? Rajya Sabha. Those are all compromises. Actually, Modi example is also here, but you can't write it as of now. That is for history to decide. Because that is how it happens. When someone is in power, you can't criticize them too much. Then let the historians decide. In the future, you will get to know all those things.
Sir, if someone is in power, he can go to the extent of declaring emergency.
It is not so easy. There are a lot of conditions for it. It's not so easy. It is almost literally now it is impossible. It's not so easy. All checks and balances have already been done. Rarely you can use it. Yeah, fine. So that is another criticism. Next criticism. Rule by non-experts, amateurs. Rule by non-experts. Rule by the non-experts. So as I said just now, the education minister might not be a graduate, finance minister might not be an economics graduate. That point is called as rule by non-expert. Tell why is it? This is because Prime Minister has to choose a minister from the legislature itself. This is because PM has to pick a minister, PM has to choose a minister, This is because PM has to choose a minister from the legislature itself. Choose a minister from the legislature itself. Fine. Again continue. This is a huge loophole in 21st century. This is a huge drawback, limitation in 21st century. This is a huge disadvantage in 21st century. 21st century, where knowledge based policies are very important. Huge disadvantage in 21st century wherein the knowledge based policies are very important. Where the knowledge based policies are very important. Fine. So that is another point called as rule by non-experts. Then another disadvantage, it goes against separation of power. It goes against, parliamentary system goes against principle of SOP. It goes against the principle of separation of power. Goes against the principle of separation of power. Fine, which is more than obvious. We have already discussed it because of the dual membership and all those things. So these are the advantages, disadvantages of parliamentary system. Clear? And now put the heading. Why India chose parliamentary system? More or less the same reasons. We'll just sum up quickly. Why India chose parliamentary system? Why India chose parliamentary system? Why India chose the parliamentary system? First reason, British legacy. British legacy. So obviously British was ruling India. Obviously in Britain, which system is there? The same parliamentary system. They had already laid the base. Remember, you might have heard acts like 1861 Act, 1892 Act, 1909 Act, 1919 Act, like that. So the real base, it started long back itself, but the real base is actually the Government of India Act 1999. Fine. So can you recall, actually these issues were divided between, can you recall this, the moment you say 1919 Act, what system should come to your mind? So transferred and reserved subjects. Transferred subjects, reserved. You can copy this. In margin you copy this. 1919 Act divided the subjects into two. Central, provincial. Within provincial again transferred, reserved. Diarchy. Because it is, look at it, because it is divided into two, it is called as diarchy. Transferred subjects, reserved subjects. Fine. Again clarify. What do you mean by transferred, sir? Transferred. Handled by the ministers, answerable to the legislature. Handled by the ministers, answerable to legislature. Means that is where, look at it, answerable to legislature means what system came up now? That's what is parliamentary system. Handled by ministers, responsible to the legislature. Reserved. Handled by governor without being answerable to legislature. Handled by the governor or handled by ministers who are not on any words you can use. Handled by the governor. Governor means, remember in British time we used to call it as governor of province, governor of Madras, governor of Bombay. Handled by the governor without answerability, without being answerable to legislature. Without being answerable to the legislature. Fine. So that is the base, because this already British had established it. That's what we are trying to say. So mention that reason. British had laid the foundation of parliamentary system through various acts. The most important is 1919, but actually it started in 1861, 1892 itself. British had laid the foundation for parliamentary system in India. British had laid the foundation for parliamentary system in India. Hence, most of the assembly members thought British had laid the foundation for parliamentary system in India. Hence, most of the assembly members, constituent assembly members felt, most of the constituent assembly members, most of the assembly members felt that, most of the assembly members felt that it is better to continue with the existing system. Most of the assembly members felt that it is better to continue with the existing system rather than shift to presidential system. So anyhow we know how the system works, why should we shift to other system? It is better to continue with the existing system rather than shifting to presidential, that is new system, rather than shifting to the presidential system. Shifting to the presidential system. That is one major reason. Familiarity. In fact, in assembly also, various members said, for example, there was a member called as K.T. Shah. So even K.T. Shah said that let's shift to presidential system, that is much better for us, US model. But finally they decided, I think it is much better, let's stick to parliamentary system itself. Fine. Then the second reason, preference to responsibility over stability. Preference to responsibility. Preference to responsibility over stability. Preference to responsibility over stability. Fine, there is a very famous Ambedkar statement, let's write the same. As said by Ambedkar, continue, as said by Dr. Ambedkar, as said by Dr. Ambedkar, any political system tries to achieve two goals, tries to ensure two goals. Any political system tries to ensure two goals, responsibility and stability. So we need both actually. Tries to ensure two aspects, that is responsibility and stability. So which one gives you responsibility, which one gives you stability more? Parliamentary system gives more of responsibility, presidential system gives more of stability, because in US once you get into power you stay there for 4 years. Parliamentary system gives more responsibility, presidential system gives more stability. Parliamentary system gives more responsibility, presidential system gives stability. Sir, then why did we choose responsibility? We chose responsibility because in the past, our rulers were never answerable to the common man. Because in the past, our leaders or our rulers, whatever, our rulers were never answerable to the common man. As I said in polity, even if they use the word responsible or accountable or answerable, take it as same. Though there are differences, but that is for optionals. Polity, all mean the same. And because in the past, our rulers were never answerable, responsible to the common man. So we wanted to change the system. We wanted to make them responsible, hence we chose this. Clear? Third one, to ensure, this is we have already written, we will not explain again, just write the point, to ensure harmony between legislature and executive. That means we did not want legislature and executive to keep fighting. To ensure harmony between legislature and executive. To ensure the harmony between legislature and executive. Fine. The next one. Parliamentary system provides opportunity to represent India's diversity. Parliamentary system provides an opportunity to represent India's diversity. That means you have to choose ministers from the MPs itself. To represent ministers from, parliamentary system gives an opportunity to represent India's diversity. So these were your various reasons why we chose. Again clarify, parliamentary system is already declared as, this is not a reason, overall clarification. Clarification below, parliamentary system is already declared as part of basic structure. You might have heard a concept called as basic structure. Till we discuss the details, basic structure means which case basic structure? Keshavananda Bharati case. As of now, take it as basic structure means the core, the very most important features of the constitution. Take it as that. Basic structure means. Parliamentary system is already declared as part of basic structure by Supreme Court. It is already declared as part of basic structure by Supreme Court. Basic structure by Supreme Court. Swaran Singh Committee, Swaran Singh Committee, Swaran Singh Committee, ARC means second ARC, Second Administrative Reforms Commission, second ARC, NCRWC, National Commission to Review the Working of Constitution, second ARC, NCRWC, write it in capitals, NCRWC. NCRWC have all recommended, NCRWC have all recommended to retain the parliamentary system. They all have recommended to retain parliamentary system and bring reforms within it. And bring reforms within it. And bring the reforms within it rather than shifting to the presidential system. Because a lot of demands were there that we should shift. And what they have told, there is no need to shift. Stick to the parliamentary system, bring reforms within it. Rather than shifting to the presidential system. So even in, like let's say even in mains or anywhere they ask the question, it is better you take the same stand. Because parliamentary system largely has functioned well. Yes, loopholes are there, we are not saying no. But that doesn't mean just because you shift to presidential system, all the problems will be solved. Hence, better stick to it, but bring reforms within it. Clear? And if you don't know what is this ARC and all who have added it, please note down how many ARCs we have had till now. 2 ARCs. First ARC who added it? First ARC. First ARC headed by Morarji Desai. 1960s. Indira Gandhi established it. First ARC headed by Morarji Desai. First ARC headed by Morarji Desai. Again clarify, because he got some health issues, the president, who the head was replaced. Later replaced by, first headed by Morarji Desai only, later replaced by, headed by Morarji Desai, later replaced by K. Hanumantayya, later replaced by K. Hanumantayya. Fine. Same way, second ARC. This was in Manmohan Singh time. Second ARC headed by Veerappa Moily. 19 Second ARC headed by Veerappa Moily. Fine, it was just a committee, it was not constitutional or statutory, any kind of body, we will discuss it. That is one. Then you have written a word called as NCRWC, right? That is a very important body. NCRWC, it was established during Atal Bihari Vajpayee time. NCRWC. What do you mean by that? National Commission to Review. National Commission to Review. National Commission to Review the working of Constitution. National Commission to review the working of Constitution. Headed by former Chief Justice of India. Headed by former CJI Venkata Chalaya. Headed by former Chief Justice of India Venkata Chalaya. Venkata Chalaya. Fine, that is NCRWC. Fine. So these are the basic of parliamentary system, advantage, disadvantage. It is already part of basic structure, everything. Now, obviously, because we have derived the system from UK, but we have made certain changes also. Make two columns: India's parliamentary system, British parliamentary. Sorry. Indian parliamentary system, British parliamentary system, differences. Indian parliamentary system, British parliamentary system. Fine. So very simple differences. Under India you can write first point, India is a republic. Republic means what? We have written the basic definition. What is the basic definition of republic? Head of the state directly or indirectly elected. Yes, India is a republic. But obviously you know who is the head of the state in UK? Yeah, so UK is a constitutional monarchy. It is not just a monarchy, because when you say only monarchy, king is having all the power. But here king is just a nominal head. India is a republic. For UK it is a constitutional monarchy. In UK is a constitutional monarchy. Fine. Then India has, under Indian parliamentary system you can mention, written constitution is present. India has a written constitution. Obviously UK we have already mentioned, no written constitution. Under India we have a written constitution. Under UK no written constitution. Fine. Under India PM can belong either to Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Under Indian system PM can belong to Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Take Modi example, take Manmohan Singh example. Can belong to Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. But in UK, again in UK you have two houses. Remember that one is House of Commons, another one is House of Lords. In UK, PM should belong only to House of Commons. That means in UK you should be a Lok Sabha MP only. In UK, PM should be a member of House of Commons. Should only be a member of House of Commons. Fine. Under India, a person who is not an MP can also be appointed as minister. Indian system, person who is not an MP. A person who is not an MP. A person who is not an MP can also be appointed as minister. A person who is not an MP can also be appointed as minister. Of course, we know maximum 6 months. Person who is not an MP can also be appointed as minister for maximum 6 months. Under UK, only MPs can be appointed as minister. So maximum 6 month concept you don't have. Under UK, only MPs can be appointed as ministers. Only MPs can be appointed as the ministers. That's why I told you obviously yesterday itself. The point is one, because it will give you an opportunity that even if you are defeated in one election, you can keep continuing as minister. And then anyhow you will have an opportunity, you have to come back. Huh? Maybe. Of course, if you have to go to that level, obviously then it is too in-depth. Obviously they would have discussed. A lot of people would have questioned, why are you giving this provision? Why is it not there in UK? All those things they would have questioned. So in fact, it is kind of misused also sometimes. But the ultimate logic they have used is, anyhow maximum 6 months only. You will have to come back to the house within 6 months. So why an issue? Fine. Yeah. So then next provision under Lok Sabha, under Indian parliamentary system. We do not. That is here it does. What is not followed? In India, legal responsibility of minister is not followed. We'll discuss that. What do you mean by that? In India, legal responsibility of minister is not followed. Legal responsibility of the minister is not followed. In UK, it is followed. Legal responsibility of the minister is followed. It is followed. So what do you mean by legal responsibility? Legal responsibility means, remember even in Indian constitution we also say that even in UK there is that very famous, any decisions taken by the government is formally taken in the name of the head of the state. In simple words, in India, if government of India takes any decision, it is not taken in the name of the prime minister, it is taken officially in whose name? Name of the president. Hence what will happen in simple words, what do you mean by name of the president? That means you will have president's signature. That is what you call it as officially taken in the name of the president. In UK what will happen? Obviously in the name of president means there who? There you will have king. King's signature will be there. In UK what should happen? The respective minister has to countersign it. For example, if it is a decision related to some education ministry, so then the education minister has to countersign. Countersign means his signature should also be there. So that is what you call it as legal responsibility. The decision taken by the government will be countersigned. Countersigned means in addition to president's signature, or not president in UK, king's signature, you will also find the signature of whom? The respective minister. Sir, why is it like that? If in case in future anything goes wrong, if they found out that actually this decision has led to so and so issue, whatever, they violate the constitution, they violate this act, that act, you cannot question whom? You cannot question the king. You have to question whom? You have to question the minister, because this entire concept is based on a simple rule called as, this is the base. This is the base. King can do no wrong. In other words, you can never question the decision taken by the king. You have to only question whom? Minister. Actually, we also follow the same system. That means what? You cannot question the president also in India. They have official immunity, complete official immunity. But in India, what we don't follow? Counter signature is not needed. Because if you follow counter signature, that means it almost feels like what? You are following this system. That's the reason that they don't follow it. That is as simple as that. So legal responsibility means countersigned by minister. No means there is no counter signature. Clear? So if anything goes wrong, you can't question the president, you should question the ministers in UK. Even in India, you can't question the president. As I said, complete official immunity is there. But this kind of system is not followed. Yeah, just note that in margin. What do you mean by legal responsibility? It means in UK, along with the king's signature or the queen's signature, it means in UK, It means along with in UK along with the king's signature, who will countersign? Yeah, the respective minister also countersigns. Along with the king's signature, respective minister also countersigns. In case of any wrong, the minister is questioned. The respective minister also countersigns. In case of any wrong, any mistake, the minister is questioned. In case of any mistake, the minister is questioned. Minister is questioned. Fine? Write this. This is based on the principle of this is based on principle of king can do no wrong. This is based on the principle of king can do no wrong. Fine, that is the idea. Then the last one, under UK you write first, or even in India you can write, under UK first point, shadow cabinet is followed. Under UK, shadow cabinet is followed. In India, not followed. That's it. Under UK, shadow cabinet is followed. Shadow cabinet system is followed. In India, no such practice. Sir, what do you mean by that? It is as simple as, let us say you have, in ruling party you will have the prime minister, you will have the finance minister, you will have the home minister. Opposition will also have what? That's what you call it as shadow. Shadow means what? Something that follows you. So shadow means they will have their own PM, they will have their own finance minister, they will have their own home minister. Who? Opposition party. Now what is the idea? The idea is to question the prime minister. Exactly follow him and I observe what is he doing. Doesn't mean these people will have any power. They don't have any power because which party are they in? Opposition. The idea is to question, what do you call as this? Make the people in power better accountable. And what is the advantage? Let's say they lose the majority next election. So what they'll do? These people can go easily replace. That's the point. I forgot, when the Rishi Sunak issue, but few months back, Rishi Sunak issue was all going on, that person was highly in news, alternative Prime Minister of UK. So the shadow cabinet minister. Now I forgot their names. If you search, you will get, entire list only you will get. Who is the shadow PM of UK, you search, you will get the name. Who is the shadow finance minister, you search, you will get it. In India, there is no shadow PM. We only have what? Why is it? There is also a reason for it. One is this as a convention, means UK is a very, very old democracy. Two is very simple. In UK, for example, see, at present the ruling party is which one? As we say in US, even in UK, there are two major parties. One is conservatives, and what is opposition then? Labour. So you have only two major political parties. So the entire Labour will form their own government. In India, how many opposition parties you have? Just imagine, how do you expect all of them to get together and form an opposition government? It is practically very, very difficult. So that's the reason in UK you have a shadow cabinet, in India we don't. It is recommended that India should also start following it, but because India is a very diverse country, too many parties, it's literally impossible practically. Clear? Got an idea what do you mean? Why is it called a shadow? Because they are following the people in power. That is the point. Please note what do you mean by shadow cabinet. Just copy it if the same if you want. Ruling party, conservatives, opposition party, Labour, everybody will have a check. So one is the advantage is better check. Second advantage is they will also get the experience. They can automatically replace the existing party. Just copy whatever we have written there. Hmm.
Does the federal cabinet has the cabinet rank? Like in India, we give cabinet rank.
That cabinet rank maybe they may be having, but they will not attend cabinet meetings, they will not get any kind of power in reality. It is only for namesake they may be given. Even when you say leader of opposition has a cabinet status in India, does it mean that they attend cabinet meeting? Obviously they don't. Then why is it given then? It is just a symbolic importance showing that you are important to that level. That's it. They don't have any real powers. Same context they may be having. Not necessary. There are multiple parties, but the point is there is no other parties which gets even more than 4-5% of votes. Major parties, major vote seats, everything is between these two. That means if you look at House of Commons, like let's say distribution, only these two parties will be there. Other parties, there is something called as Green Party, which environment related, all those things, they don't get any numbers. Even US is not two party. By definition, they are also multi-party system only. But in practice, no other parties matter. They don't get any numbers. In India, it is not like that. In India, even in practice, they matter. So much of members, MP positions, MP seats they get. They get what? I think look at TMC may be having some 15-20 MPs. Samajwadi, I don't know how much they have. So DMK will be having so and so. AIDMK will be having so and so. The BJD will be having like that. Many are there, across the country. But UK, it's not like that. Because UK's diversity you can't compare with India. When their population itself is what? Around 6 crore. What is India's population? India is most populous country now. And consider the diversity then. You look at from Delhi to the south. What will you feel? You feel like why these issues are going on in south. The same if from south, if you look at it also, they'll feel the same about north. Why are these issues going on in north? To that level, it is diverse. So obviously, it's a huge country. It's not so easy. At least you got a brief idea, right? What do you mean by shadow cabinet? As a check, accountability, all those things. Yeah, so this is the broader area of parliamentary system. Any doubts still here? So please clarify, or else we have to discuss another major system, that is federal. Federal, obviously here we have to just give a brief about three. One is, remember, there is a concept called as unitary system. Unitary means uni means what? Single. That means only one level of government. Federal means people assume it is two. Not necessarily two. Federal means minimum two. Minimum, not necessarily two. That means what? Let's say take India. You have government of India, that is national union government, state government, plus you also have what? Local bodies. So minimum two levels of government if you have, that is called as federal. Then there is another system, if you have heard, called as confederation. Confederation don't succeed in practice. What are the differences? Which country have we followed, which one? We'll discuss it. So let's take a break as of now. It's already 5:40. It's 10 minutes, then we'll start with federal. Please put the heading Federal System. Again, so that's basic. Political systems can be divided into.
So what is the heading?
Federal system. Political systems, federal system, federalism, whatever you want, you can write that. Most of you guys have finished your optional. Matlab, how many one have decided to give, because some student asked it, that's why I'm asking. How many have you decided to give prelims? Okay, within that, how many of you have finished your optionals? Then how did you decide to give? Well, just like sir UPSC को test करता है, so are they giving prelims properly or not? Without giving, especially optional is an indicator. You should have finished your optional. You should have some good notes. उसका previous year question test series. If you have done, that means you have a chance in this attempt. Without that, it depends on your number of attempts. Number of attempts, if you don't have limit, it's fair enough. Or else, think and they give attempt, because don't waste attempt just like that. Without optional preparation, what you have not even 50% I have completed, sir, 40%, 50% prelims के बाद में complete करूँगा वो सब. It is not so easy in UPSC. Please don't think like that. By now, if you have talked to seniors, they would have told you, but still I am just clarifying again. Practically, it's not, don't think like that. That sir, optional prelims के बाद शुरू करूँगा, उसके बाद somehow I'll complete. वो सब obviously in UPSC doesn't happen like that. Fine, so you should have a clear hold on at least notes, previous, some kind of short notes if you have. Okay, fine, that means you have a chance. Still GS mains ka notes hai. GS no, this is lot of basics we are doing. After this you have to do a separate notes for GS mains also. GS mains short notes was up, so that on an average for every GS paper, means 250 marks paper, you should have a short notes in 60 to 70 sheets, because only then you can revise it. If you don't revise it, how do you go and reproduce it in the exam? Just recall how many questions you have to write. You don't have the time to think there. So that means it will just keep flowing. मतलब ऐसे flow करना है तो obviously how many times you should have revised then? No sir, I'll think and then I'll write the next point, think, write the next point, by then time gone. So the point should keep just flowing. For that to flow, obviously you should have revised it many times. And how can you revise multiple times? You normal point you take. If your notes is 1000 pages, how many times can you revise? Remember, if you have gone to all these markets, you ask any optional notes, how many books you get? 4, 5, 3, depending on the optional, depending on, obviously you get so many things. How do you revise them? It is impossible to practically revise. So hence it is just a starting note. वो revise करके obviously then you have to make your own short notes. You search any topper's notes you will get. So everybody's notes you will have an idea how they would have made some kind of shortly everything. That is the base. वो सब करने के बाद then you have a mains chance. Fine. Think about all that and then take a call. Especially if you are in GM. Non-GM, it depends. It's your call. But now GM candidates, think about it and then give an attempt, because don't regret then I just gave an attempt, अरे यार waste हो गया, what to do now, वो सब, so please don't regret then. Clear? Okay, so political systems can be divided into 3 types broadly. Political systems can be divided into 3 types based on political system. Those points we'll discuss later, Padma Tulsi, because there are so many points related to what you are asking. That is all related to the bills. Anti-defection law, all those aspects you are asking. Political systems can be divided into 3 types based on the relation, so not based on the number of levels of the government. Based on number of levels of the government. Based on the number of levels of the government, or you can say it as in relationship between national and regional government, anything. Based on the number of levels of government. What is the first one, as we obviously told? First is unitary system. First one is unitary system. unitary system. As the name itself says, so what is it obviously? Here there will be only one level of government. Here there will be only one level of government, national government. Even if regional government exists, here there will be only one level of government. That is, you will only have national government. Even if regional government exists, even if the regional government exists, they will not have any power. Even if the regional governments exist, they will not have any power. Fine. So that means you will only have national government. That is the point. Example, the best example, UK. Many are there. The best is UK, France, Norway, etc. Even China also to an extent. UK, France, Norway, etc. But UK is the best parliamentary system and unitary system. Then the second one, that is your federal system. Federal system, federation, federalism, federal system. So how many here? Here there are minimum 2 levels of government. Not only, minimum. Here there are minimum 2 levels of government. Minimum 2 levels of the government. Power will be divided between these different levels. Power will be divided between these different levels in the constitution itself. Power will be divided between these different levels in the constitution itself. So that means that's the reason you should have a constitution, you should have a written constitution. I'll tell you that prelims questions, all those things. Power will be divided between these different levels in the constitution itself. Example, US, India, Canada, Australia, etc. US, India, Canada, Australia, etc. So we all are normally, this is a rule, not always you can, it's not like that. In general, wherever you have very big countries, means either area is big, geography is big, or population is more, normally you will have federal system there. Wherever countries are small, means area is less, population is less, normally you will have unitary there. There is no rule. Generally, if you look at across the world, very few exceptions are something like China, because even though it's a very, very large country and the most populous country till now, it is a unitary considering they follow a very strong communist party centralized government. All else in general, even Russia for that matter, you can also write Russia, Switzerland, Belgium, etc. Russia, Switzerland also examples. Russia, Switzerland, they are also federal systems only.
So it's also concerned with one culture, one government, or one language, one government.
Which one?
Like China.
That's what. Wherever you have communist parties, it's a completely different system. Concentration of power. Centralized governments will be very, very strong. Fine. So Russia, Switzerland are also federal systems. And again you clarify here, normally in federal system, central governments or federal governments will be powerful. Normally, because this we have to differentiate with confederation, that's why I am clarifying. Normally, in federal system, national government, we are just using a broader name, you can call it as federal government, you can call it as central government, union government. Normally in a federal system, national government will be very powerful. So even you take India, so government of India is very powerful compared to states. You take US, federal, there they call it as federal government. Federal government is very powerful compared to state government. So that is the rule. Why are we writing this? To differentiate with another system, confederation. So writing confederation. C-O-N, confederation. So then what is the difference then? Even here there will be more than or minimum 2 levels of government. Even here Even here there will be minimum 2 levels of government. Even here there will be minimum 2 levels of government. But what is the difference? Here regional governments will be powerful. Even here there will be minimum 2 levels of government, but who is powerful? Regional governments are powerful. Regional governments are powerful, and also add they will have the right to secede. Secede means what? Disassociate, get out of a group. Accede, secede, opposites. Accession or accession, secession. They will also have the right to secede. Secede means get out. Remember, we keep using the term secessionist movement. Khalistan is a secessionist movement because they want to make a separate country. Nagalim is a secessionist movement because they want to make a separate country. So like that. So regional governments will have the right to secede. Now when you have the right to secede, how will a confederation succeed then? So that's why I clarify, confederations are normally not successful. Confederations are not successful. Confederations are not successful. So then what are the present examples for confederation? Again, there are confusions regarding this also. At present, international organizations like UN, SAARC are confederations. At present, international organizations like United Nations, ASEAN, SAARC, BRICS, at present, international organizations like UN, ASEAN, etc. are confederations, because obviously India can anytime join SAARC, and what they can also do? Anytime we can tell, no, we don't want to be part of SAARC, also you can do that. But can a state in India say that anytime I will pull out of the group? If you say that, then there is no union, then the entire group will go away. That's why in federations normally national government will be powerful and the regional governments will not have the right to secede. In confederations, reverse. Who will be powerful? Regional governments will be powerful. And what will they also have? They will also have the right to secede. That's why confederations don't succeed as a group. They tried. Actually, US was a confederation for 5 years before it became a federation. Fine. Remember the American Revolution? Like for example, just to give you an idea, because that is anyhow related to it. If you can recall, you had 13 northeastern states. Fine, all of them in a way were ruled one or other way by Britain. So then what you had? Then you had American Revolution from 1777 till 1782. So then all of them, remember, were separate. So then they decided, no, rather than staying separate, what is much better? They felt, let's get together. That is called as what? Federation based on integration. The name itself says integrate means what? Get together. So all of those 13 felt, let's get together. Because if you get together, what will happen? Area will increase or decrease then? Area will increase, population will increase, we can maintain a strong army, our economy will become strong. Hence they felt, let's integrate. So earlier in the beginning, actually from 1782, in the first 4 or 5 years, it was what? Confederation. Means what? The states, those 13 states can anytime pull out. That means they can go out of the group. Then what they did, when they got a constitution in 1787, confederation became federation, Federal Republic of United States. Because then they realized, no, we'll not give you an option, you just have to stay. The right to secede was still an issue. For example, getting the logic, first one, you are only talking about 13 northeastern side, means New York, Texas, those right side what you have. So those ones, all of them, earlier they were ruled by France, Britain, Portugal, all those things are there. That if you have read world history, you will understand, or they'll tell you in world history. Basically ruled by Britain. Then they all went against them. That's what you technically call as what? American Revolution for around 5-6 years, 1777 to 1782. Then they all decided that okay, we'll all get together, make a larger group. That is called as federation based on integration. Then for 4 or 5 years till they framed, finalized their constitution. What was it? It was a confederation. That means they felt we are all getting together. Then the logic was what? If you want to stay together, stay. If you don't want to, get out. That is the idea they had in the beginning. Later then they realized, no, this is not going to work. They made it as federation. But still in the US there was a confusion. They felt that even in a federation, right to secede will be there. Because the point is what? All these 13 people or 13 states have agreed to get together. That means what do you have here? They have agreed to get together. Agreed means what? Kind of some deal will be there, some law, some treaty will be there. They agreed to get together. Now the logic they used was, if you are agreeing to get together, what you can also do then? It's like a contract. You sign an agreement and then you work for a company. If you don't want to, there will be a process to get out also. So hence they felt, you also have what? Right to secede. This issue was going on till you had what? US Civil War in 1860s. Remember Abraham Lincoln? So it was what you call it as South versus North. The South states supported slavery. North, obviously what? Against slavery. And the South state, the Texas, Miami, they all were busy, what do you call this, rich in these plantations, tobacco, rubber, all those things. These North states South were plantation based. Means remember the US history, the Africans labor were taken from there and put in these states by this. That's what is your African American slaves. The North states were, what are they? Industrialized. Hence what they did? They were against slavery. That's what led to civil war. The South states said, we will get out. We will not stay with you. Anyhow, we have agreed to stay with you. Hence what they said? Now we will get out. But that's what led to fine. And then finally, obviously, the northern states won. And the US Supreme Court clarified that even in US, states will not have what? You will not have right to secede. So it is clarified even in US Supreme Court that the states cannot have or will not have the right to secede from the federation. So we already had an experience. That's why we wrote directly in our constitution that what you will not have. You will not have a right to secede. In Article 1 of Indian Constitution, it is explicitly mentioned that the states will not have the right to secede. Why did we do it? Because we had already learned from US experience. We have seen what will happen in US. Hence we directly wrote it. Don't ask for right to secede, you will not get it. So in India, till now in the last 70, there is no right to secede for anybody. Some territories are given away, but not based on secessionist movement. No territory has seceded from India. Not as a country, I am telling. Clear? So that is the basic idea of what is this. Please note down, this will matter a lot. Sir, then how did 13 become 50, sir? Because as of now you have 50. Because that's what we call it as the wild, wild west. Means US started to expand to the west. Matlab, these are all northeastern states. So they kept on expanding till California. So by wherever they went and then conquered and then gradually kept on expanding. That's how they conquered Alaska also. If you looked at Alaska, remember, just recall the map of US. You have US and then you have Canada. After that you have somewhere in the left Alaska. How can you? Because Alaska was brought by US on a lease from Russia. On a lease, no conquer, nothing. All those are, that is how US expanded in the past. Then they made a very big country. Please note down, this will matter a lot to understand federalism. Just copy it. 13 northeastern states ruled by Britain. I just summed up American Revolution. There are so many important people, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, so many are there.
So can EU be considered as a confederation?
Yes, by definition, yes, you can say. Because look at Britain, what they did. By definition, yes. Any international groups. At present, they are the only confederations. Remember in Caribbean islands also, you have a team called as, in cricket you have West Indies team. But do you have a country called West Indies? There is no country called as West Indies. There are different countries like Jamaica, Barbados, like that, many countries are there. So in fact, they had also tried to make a confederation. So many small island countries. It could not succeed. Finally they said, okay, let's get out, let's be separate countries. So when you have West Indies team, it is not representing West Indies country. It is different countries, they have made one broader, what do you call this, team. So 13 states agreement to integrate, then you had confederation, then by 1787 you had a federation. Clear? Next slide. But that problem did not finalize, I mean the problem of right to secede was still going on. Then you had US Civil War, to be precise 1862 to 1865 I think, US Civil War 62 to 65, correct. So South states का मतलब as I said Texas, Miami वो सब who are rich in plantations, and plantations have wanted what? Slave labor, so they supported it. Northern states industrialized, they did not, they were against it. That led to the Civil War and the North states won it. That's why we keep telling that Abraham Lincoln abolished slavery. It is actually this. There are a lot of controversies related to it, but in general take this. Clear? So result you wrote right. North states won, slavery abolished, and what did the Supreme Court clarify? US Supreme Court clarified that the states will not have the right to secede. Please note down all those things. War won by the North states, slavery abolished, and so US Supreme Court clarified states will not have right to secede. States will not have the right to secede. Fine. So whatever we discussed now, that itself is your next point. The term federation is derived from a Latin term, or just derived from a term called fidus. The term federation is derived from a term called fidus, which means same, treaty or agreement. Derived from a term called fidus, which means treaty or agreement. Fine. Next one also we have mentioned already. Federation can be of two types. Federation can be of two types. Federation can be of two types. One is based on integration, US. Small states get together and form a big state, big group. Federation can be of two types. First one is based on integration, US. So all small ones get together and form a big group. Second, obviously reverse, based on disintegration. A big country you keep dividing into small ones. Second one is based on disintegration. Example, Canada, India. Look at India itself. So there were very few states. Gradually we kept on dividing. Bombay became Maharashtra, Gujarat. Assam, in northeast you had only one state called as Assam. Today you have 7 states. For in Uttar Pradesh you might obviously, few of you might be from Uttar Pradesh also, there is a demand to divide UP into what? 4 states, Purvanchal, Paschim Pradesh, Harith Pradesh, like that there is Bundelkhand, so many discussions are going on. Subdivide, disintegration. Madhya Pradesh became Chhattisgarh, Andhra Pradesh became Telangana, whatever, so many are there, you know by now. Those are all examples for what do you call as this? Second one, based on disintegration, example Canada, India. Fine. So that is another one. Then
In what category can USSR?
USSR is not. USSR earlier one was a kind of confederation itself. But it was a completely different model, a kind of confederation, USSR. But now of course you don't have USSR, the Cold War is all gone. So Russia is a normal country which is a federation now. Fine, yeah, next one. Article 1 of Indian Constitution. Article 1 of the Constitution describes India as Article 1 of the Constitution describes India as what? Union of States. Article 1 describes India as Union of States. Fine. This is mentioned in Article 1 itself. It includes 2 components. First one, India is not formed as a result of treaty or agreement. That's why they have not used the word federation here. It is described as Union of States. It means it includes 2 components. First one, it is not formed as a result of treaty or agreement. It is not formed as a result of treaty or agreement. Fine. 2. States do not have not formed as a result of treaty or agreement. And second one, states do not have right to secede. States do not have the right to secede. That's what we learned from US. So we have clarified both. That's what they clarified. Fine, that you don't have the right to secede because they knew that in future problems will come. That's why they directly mention, don't never ask to get out. You can only get in. Fine. Again clarify, Indian Constitution nowhere mentions the term federation or federal. Even in the preamble one, it is only said sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. You don't find the word federal there. Indian Constitution nowhere mentions the term federation or federal. Nowhere mentions the term federation. Fine, it is only described as what? This one, Union of States.
So that the word nationalism has been used in the constitution.
The word?
Nationalism.
Nationalism. No, nowhere.
It has not been defined.
No, it is not even mentioned. Forget about defining. Constitution does not define terms normally. No term is defined. Untouchability, contempt of court, contempt of this. No term is defined. But a lot of terms are not even mentioned. Sometimes it will be implicit. Nationalism, all those things, obviously you don't find. It's a concept. It's nowhere mentioned in the Constitution. Yes. No. Here, Union of States means here the normal ones. The, what do you call as this? Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, that states. Union of States. It's a, just to make a difference. For example, even in UA, this is a Canada model. Even in Canada, it is not called as federation. It is called as Union of States. So we copy the same model from them. We did not copy US model of federalism. We copied which model? Canadian model. See, US model is integration. Canada model is what? Because Canada also, if you can recall, was also ruled by Britain only. It was also a large country. After then what they did? They started to divide the country. Divide in the sense, make it into small regional groups. We followed exactly what Canada had done. Divide it into small ones and mention it as Union of States and clearly say that the states have no right to secede.
So the concept of Union of States also followed in Goa, applied in Goa.
Goa?
Yes,
Huh?
After that, they become part of India. But
Correct.
at that time, they have the chance to become a separate country, or still they can have the chance to become a part of
That is, if you are not part of India, that's left to you.
So till 1961, they were.
Exactly, that's what I am telling. Till 1961, they will have opportunity for themselves to decide. Once you get into India, then you don't have an opportunity. It's a different one. Till 1961, when you are ruled by Portuguese, you are not part of India. India has got nothing to do with Goa then. Then it is left to them to take the call.
After that, they.
Once you become part of India, you never have the right to secede. Indian constitution doesn't support it.
Because they become a union state in 1961, but formed in 1987 again.
No, that's what I am clarifying. 1961 tak it was ruled by Portuguese. 1962 mein it became under Article 2, they transformed it into Union territory. Once you become Union territory or part of India, bus, story ends there. You will never have the right to secede then. Till then, if you want an opportunity, you had it. Practically, you could not have faced it. That's a different issue. Once you become part of India, the story ends there. There is no right to secede in India. Clear? That's the point. Nobody will have it. Neither for Punjab, nor for Kashmir, nor for Nagaland, for nobody. As of now, till now. You never know what will happen in the future. I am telling you till now. Fine? Yeah, so that is the concept of Union of States. What is the meaning of it and all those things. A Berubari case is not as a overall country. Small areas we gave up. India, Bangladesh, 100 constitutional amendment. Not as a country. But it did not become a country, right? You gave it to Bangladesh, seed. Separate one is very impossible in Indian context. I clarify that point. India has followed Canada's model of federalism. India has followed Canadian or Canada's model of federalism in various aspects. Federalism is a very big chapter. Lot of types of federalism are there. We'll discuss it. India has followed Canada's model of federalism in various aspects like what? First one, based on integration or integration model. First one is based on disintegration. Based on disintegration. Two, union of states. So there is preference for the term union of states. Second one, union of states. That means union of states rather than federation of states. Three, very strong center. Union of states, a very strong center. Appointment of governors by the center. Appointment of governor by the center. Did we mention the term that the term federalism is nowhere mentioned in the constitution? Did we write it? Okay, fine. Fine. So these are all various ways in which India model is inspired from Canada. Now let's talk about the features of federalism. Features of federalism. Features of federalism. First one, dual polity, means minimum two levels of the government. Dual, two. Dual government or dual polity. Polity means what? System of government. Dual polity. So this is a very common point. What does that mean? It means there should be minimum two levels of the government. It means there should be minimum two levels of the government. Fine. And the moment you have minimum two levels of the government, what you should do then? You should divide the powers between them. That's your second feature, division of powers. Division, dual polity is first one. Second one is division of power. So what does that mean then? It means the power should be divided between these different levels in the constitution itself. It means power should be divided. That means on what subject can you make law, on what subject can they make laws, those things. Power should be divided between these levels of government. Power should be divided between these different levels of government, and where? In the constitution itself. That's the core point. In the constitution itself. So if you want to write it in the constitution, then what is the next feature then? Written constitution. That's why in a federalism, written constitution is mandatory. Written constitution. Fine, if you want, just explain that for example. For example, 7th schedule of Indian Constitution. For example, 7th schedule of Indian Constitution. 7th schedule of Indian Constitution divides the subjects between center and state. Officially, you have to use the term union only. 7th schedule of the Constitution divides the subjects between center and states. So obviously, you know, write the basics here itself. What is the first list called as? Union list. So you know that. What do you mean by union list? Who will make laws? Only Parliament can make laws. Union list, only Parliament can make laws. And what are the examples? Example, defense, external affairs, yeah, atomic energy related, those things. Railways, very famous one. Example, defense, external affairs, railways, insurance, etc. Many are there, around 96, 97 are there post GST. So write some 2, 3. Defense, external affairs, railways, etc. That is union list. Then of course you have the next one, state list. State list, as again it says, only state legislatures can make laws. Exceptions are there, that's a different issue. Only state legislature can make laws. Only state legislature can make laws. Again example, police, agriculture, land, water. Example, police, agriculture, land, water, etc. Remember, water is a state subject, but interstate river water is a union subject. So differences are there. If you want, write in margin also. Water, you have clarified, water is state list, but interstate river waters is union list. Like interstate water dispute, the Narmada, Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, those are all union list. Interstate river water is union. In general, water is state. Clear? That is state list. Then the third one is concurrent list. Concurrent list. Concurrent list. As the name itself says, both can make laws. Both can make laws. Example, both can make laws. Example, marriage, criminal law, very famous one, education, environment, forest and wildlife. Marriage, criminal law, education, forests, many are there, so many. Electricity, labor, those are some 3, 4 concurrent. Then again clarify, Constitution only mentions these 3 lists, means in 7th schedule you will only have these 3. If you want, just go open, as I said, Constitution app, you open, you will only find these 3 lists. Constitution or 7th schedule mentions only these 3 lists. Clarify this is a very basic prelims point. Constitution only mentions, or 7th schedule only mentions these 3 lists. These 3 lists. The unallocated subjects, the unallocated means if there is no clarity who has the power on it. Unallocated subjects will be considered as residuary subject. Residue, look at the name itself says, residue means what? Left out. The unallocated subjects is considered as residuary subjects and Parliament has the control. Parliament can make laws. Unallocated subjects are considered as residuary subjects and Parliament can make laws on it. Only Parliament can make laws on it. So normally what are your residuary subjects? The emerging subjects are your residuary. Example, social media, cyber security, all of cryptocurrency or all your residuary, because in the constitution there is still no clarity. You don't find the term cryptocurrency in constitution, you don't find the term social media, but it is still there. So who should have control then? Automatically parliament will have control. Example, social media, cryptocurrency, cyber security issues, those are all residuary, but you find it in the constitution, it is automatic. Fine. So that is your written constitution. Sir, why should you have written constitution, sir? Again clarify, this is a prelims point. Yesterday also we told, is written constitution mandatory for democracy? No. But if the statement says written constitution is mandatory for federal system, answer is what? Yes. So clarify those two. Though written constitution is not mandatory for democracy, it is mandatory for federalism. Though written constitution is not mandatory, though written constitution is not mandatory for democracy, it is mandatory for federalism. Though it is not mandatory for democracy, it is mandatory for federalism. Sir, why is it? This is to provide clarity in the division of powers, because to avoid any kind of controversies in the future, this is to provide clarity in the division of powers. Provide clarity in the division of powers. Fine. So that is another one. So written constitution. Then the next one. You think logically. Let us say you have written everything in the constitution. Clearly you have told parliament can do this, states can do this and all those things. What is the guarantee that tomorrow they will not change the constitution? Ultimately, when you can write something to constitution, what you can also do? You can also rewrite it, you can also delete it, you can do anything. What if they do it then? Then what if the power, everything goes to center then? Getting the point? The basic point is, when you can write something in the constitution, you can also rewrite it, you can also make changes. Hence, what they have also done, that's your next features, they have made it very, very difficult to amend federal features. In simple words, if you want to shift a subject from, let us say, state list to concurrent list, it is a very, very high complicated process, because you will affect federalism. Remember the GST. GST we now pay, obviously we keep paying GST. GST was not there earlier, it only came in 2016. Till then states used to have their own indirect tax, center used to have its own indirect tax. Then they decided we should have one country, one indirect tax. For that means when you are saying one country, one indirect tax, states are giving up their financial power. So they can't put their own taxes now. Matlab, are they not affected? Are their powers not getting affected? Of course, yes. For that you should have very, very high numbers. That's what is the next process. So clarify. First one is supremacy of the constitution. Supremacy of constitution. It means constitution is considered as the supreme law of the land, supreme document of the land. You call it as mother document, supreme document, all mean the same. Constitution is considered as the supreme law of the land, and supreme law of the land, and the federal features in the constitution is very difficult to amend. It is considered as a supreme law of the land, and the federal features are very difficult to amend. We'll discuss that. That's where we'll discuss lots of majorities. Federal features are very difficult to amend. Fine. That's your next feature. Rigidity of constitution. Not as a whole, but only federal features. Rigidity of constitution. Rigidity of constitution. So clarify what does that mean. We'll discuss a lot of things here. To amend the federal features, to make changes in federal features, to amend the federal features, Constitution Amendment Bill should be passed. To amend federal features, Constitution Amendment Bill should be passed. Constitution Amendment Bill should be passed under Article 368. Just write U/A. Constitution Amendment Bill should be passed under 368. Under Article 368 using special majority. Using special majority, we'll discuss all of those things now. Using special majority and ratification of 50% of states. Special majority and ratification of 50% of states. So Constitution as a whole is supreme, correct? But to amend federal features, you should have a very, very rigid procedure. Now, before we understand special majority, so tell me there are different types. So any idea you have, what do you mean by so keep copying like that itself. Now let's discuss the first one. Now tell me, what do you mean by absolute majority? Any idea?
More than 50% of the total strength of the House.
Correct. Correct. What do you mean by absolute majority? Please write the formula. This is your absolute majority. Total strength of the House by 2 plus 1. What do you mean by that? Let's say you take Lok Sabha. What is the Lok Sabha's maximum strength? 543. Then absolute majority means by 2 plus 1, that is. So this is fixed. It doesn't matter how many are present, how many are absent. Lok Sabha's absolute majority means 273. You take Rajya Sabha. 122.5, that means 123.5. 124 is fixed. Rajya Sabha's majority, absolute majority is this. Lok Sabha's absolute majority is this. Clear? It doesn't matter, sir. What if there are few MPs who have resigned, few did not come to the House that day? Nothing matters. Absolute majority means you should get this number. Done. Clear? But sometimes what will happen? For example, let us say some 2-3 MPs, they have resigned their MP positions. Some 3 MPs have died in the office. The re-election has not yet happened. Some of them have been disqualified by Supreme Court Election Commission. Obviously, then what will happen? The strength will not be 543, it will be reduced. That's what is your next one, effective majority. That is, the formula is it is not absent, it is vacant. Absent का मतलब क्या होता है? You are still an MP, you did not come to the House that day. Vacant means what? It's gone, the seat is gone, you have to conduct re-election then. So that is vacancy. It can be because of resignation or death, or DQ there means disqualification. Disqualification. So various ways of disqualification are there. That's a different issue. This is the formula for effective majority. In fact, this strength, this one, they also call it as so what do they call it? Effective strength also they call. Fine, that is one. Then sometimes what will happen, so this is your simple majority. This is the most famous, commonly used. It doesn't matter what is the house strength, how many came to the house that day, and not just came, what they should do? They should vote. That means what? Let's say for example, Lok Sabha strength hai 543. Let us assume that day 500 people came to the house. Fine, this is present. But 50 people did not vote. That means how many voted? 450. So then the formula is 450 by 2 plus 1. Fine? So this is Lok Sabha strength. That day, on a particular day, 500 people came to the house. Doesn't matter. How many people voted? 450. So 450 by 2 plus 1. So the number is 200. You should get this number for a bill to be passed. That is simple majority. Fine. Got an idea? Any confusion? Absolute, effective, simple. Anything other than these three is a broader classification called special. So special majority means anything other than these three. So there are different types under special. The most famous special majority is, this is the famous one. So this is the famous formula. Absolute majority and 2 by 3rd of the members present and voting. Absolute, for example, you take Lok Sabha. Fine. Absolute majority is fixed. What is it? Sorry, 273. So that is fixed. 2 by 3 of members present and voting. Let us say, just for an example, take the same example as you mentioned earlier. Let's say out of 543, only 500 came to the house that day. And how many voted? Let's say 450 voted. Now the formula is what? You do the number, basic arithmetic. What is the number? 300. So which is greater of the two? 300. So you should get minimum 300 MPs voting for you. So greater of the two, whichever is there, that number should be passed. So here and means, and does not mean plus. If you make it as plus, what will happen then? You make it plus 570. What is the maximum strength itself? How do you make it as plus then? Plus cannot work. It is not plus. It is both, you have to pass it separately. In other words, whichever is the greater number, you should pass by that. If you are greater number passing it, what does it indirectly mean? Let's say you 310 members voted for you. It means you have passed this also. You have passed even that. That's why it is called as greater of the two and. That is called as one of, this is the most famous special majority. Clear? There are so many others.
So it's like both the conditions should be separately satisfied.
Correct. Both the conditions should be separately satisfied. That's why it is called as not arithmetic plus, in general, overall and. Got it? So these are your special majorities. There are so many other ones, like for example, for president's removal there is a special majority. That all we'll discuss separately. So got an idea? And the most famous one, as I said, is what? Simple. For example, let's say in newspapers they just mention this bill was passed, but they have not mentioned majority. Then which majority? Simple majority is called as default majority. Means if any majority is not clarified, it automatically means simple. Even in the constitution or anywhere, they'll just tell Lok Sabha passed it, Rajya Sabha passed it, but they have not told which majority. Consider it as what? Assume it as default.
Sir, is there a minimum number of members which should be present?
Yes, there is a concept called as quorum. But when we discuss, there is a concept called as QUO or UM. According to the rules, you should have minimum 10% of the MPs mentioned, present in the house. Minimum 10 means kitna? 55. That is always will be there. Huh?
Sir, in simple majority, it will be not come under Article 368.
Article 368 is not simple. Article 368 is not simple. When you say 368, you should have, there are two types under 368. We'll discuss. Under 368, there are two types of amendment. One is under special majority, second one is special majority plus ratification. Huh.
Sir, the special majority will always have greater, more than absolute majority.
Minimum absolute will be there, correct. Always. Any other? Okay, fine. So this is the one. So if you want to amend federal features, what you have to get? Special majority plus who has to amend? Ratification of 50% of the states. Ratification means what? I have already told you the difference. That means who should pass? Legislature should pass. Legislatures of minimum 50% of the states should pass it. That details again we'll discuss. Anyhow, amendment of the constitution chapter is still there. So that we'll discuss. That is the level. That means in simple words, it is very, very difficult to make changes in the federal features. Got it? Let's say for example, again assume the next check. The same party is in power throughout the country. In most of the states, out of 28 states, you have 25 states BJP in power or whichever party. In Lok Sabha also they are in majority, Rajya Sabha also in majority. Then what you can do? Any majority you can easily get the numbers. So just means, does it mean that okay, let them make any changes, we'll sit silent? Getting the point? First point what we have done, you have written it in the constitution to give a clarity. What is this next check we did? Even if you write it in the constitution, they may change it. That's why we made the constitution rigid. That's why we made the constitution the supreme law of the land. Even after that, what is the next check? They may get the numbers and still pass it. But even after that, you should have another check. That's your next one, independent judiciary. That's what you said, 2022 prelims question. Independent judiciary. Independent judiciary. Independent judiciary. Fine, obviously for what purpose? This is to ensure supremacy of the constitution. This is to ensure supremacy of the constitution. This is to ensure supremacy of the constitution using the power of supremacy of the constitution using the power of judicial review. Using the power of judicial review. Fine, and then there are so many, original jurisdiction, everything. So that means what? Even if you don't have any checks, ultimately who will check all these, anything which goes against federalism? Judiciary will check. That's what was the prelims question was, that they had given some 3-4 statements and they said, which among the following is the most important feature of federalism? They did not give division of power, all those things. The question answer was independent judiciary. Again I am repeating, if they gave, like let's say as I told for parliamentary system, which is the most important feature, it is collective responsibility. The same way, if they give all the features of federalism and they ask which is the most important, you should choose division of powers. That is the most important. If not division of power, then the second feature is what? Independent judiciary. Please clarify in the margin. Division of power is the base, is the most important feature of federalism, and the second most is independent judiciary. Rigidity, everything is there, but this is the most important. Division of power is the most important feature of federalism. Division of power is the most important feature of federalism. The second most important is independent judiciary. Second most important is independent judiciary.
Is there any
Criteria
criteria to decide that?
to decide what?
What is more important?
Of course, what is more important means if you take this point out, the system itself is not there. You can't call it as what is the basic point? You should divide the powers between two levels of government. That is the basic point. Sir, can we say dual polity? No. Let's say you have two levels of government. You may not divide the powers between them. In China also you have two levels of government. What they have not done? They have not divided the power between them. So you should divide the powers. That is the base. The second most is independent judiciary, because if you don't have independent judiciary, the system is gone. You cannot ensure that the rights of states are protected. That's why it's very, very important. Clear? Then the last one, representation of states in the parliament. Representation of states in parliament. Representation of the states in the parliament. Fine. What is its simple words? Rajya Sabha. So mention that. For example, in India, Rajya Sabha represents the interests of states and duties in parliaments. That's why the name itself is the same. For example, in India, Rajya Sabha represents the interests of states in parliament. The same function in US, what is that? In US, Senate does the same role. In US, House of Senate does the same role, perform the same role. In US, Senate performs the same role. Got it? So this is also needed, but this is not the core feature. That's why, so that statement was given actually in prelims. You go and look at it, or we'll discuss it once. It is not the same. When you say separation of power, see, remember there are two types of separation. One is called as what? When you say separation of power, again you can subdivide. One is called as vertical separation of power. This is what you call it as federalism. Vertical means what? Union, state, local. That is vertical. Then you also have this at both union and state levels. LEJ. So when you say separation of power, you are referring to this. That is federalism. I think now you got an idea. Yes. That is vertical separation is called what you call it as division of power between center and state. Federalism. At present, in India we are writing union, state and local. In US, in US also you have local, but they are not constitutional bodies. Vertical SOP at both union and state level. Means you have Parliament, the Prime Ministers and all those things, Supreme Court. At state level you have what? State legislature, CMs, High Courts.
Sir, in US, residuary power are given to the
States, correct. That's why we call it as US is an ideal federalism. We'll discuss. Ours is a quasi-federal, all those things are there. We'll discuss all those points. Got it? Then another basic, just to clarify, if you know it's fine. There are three types of bodies. One is constitutional, one is statutory, and third one is what? Executive body. So any idea what do you mean by, what is the differences between these three?
Constitutional body are those which are mentioned in the constitution.
Correct.
Statutory which is passed by the parliament by some act, and executive is just by cabinet actions.
Correct. So look at, first one is constitutional body. Look at the name itself. Constitutional body का मतलब क्या होता है? There are, yeah, it is mentioned in the constitution. Constitution itself establishes it. Please write if you don't know the difference. First is constitutional body, because we keep using those terms automatically. In the beginning, it's better we get clarified. In, let's say, in the EPIC classes, I'll not tell all those things. Directly, just keep going, because you would have already revised it. In OGP classes, obviously, we may have to tell all the basics. Constitutional body means it is created by the constitution itself. That means, in simple words, if you open the constitution, you will mention, you can read about it. They are created by the constitution itself. Very simple ones. Example: Supreme Court, UPSC, Election Commission, etc. Example: Supreme Court, UPSC, Election Commission. Then, when they use the word statute, that's your next one, statutory body. Statutory. The word statute means actually it is a law passed by the legislature. Statutory body. So what does that mean then? Created by an act passed by legislature. That means parliament can also do it, state legislature can also do it. Created by an act passed by legislature. In simple words, you don't find it in constitution, you will only find it in separate laws. Sir, what do you mean by laws, acts, everything? You have to wait, separate chapters we'll discuss. Created by an act passed by legislature. Example: RBI under RBI Act, SEBI under SEBI Act, RBI, SEBI, TRAI, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, IRDA, so many are there, etc. Write some 2, 3. Huh? Huh? Central universities. If it is created by, normally universities will also be created by a law only. For example, you have UGC, University Grants Committee. It's a statutory body. That's what I am telling. For that also, sometimes you will have an act. Sometimes they may create it directly also. It depends on, for example, you will have a lot of state universities. All the state universities, it is not mandatory it should be passed by state legislature. Sometimes what they do, under that state act, they will tell you can create it directly by the resolution of government. Then the university will not become, it depends. But yes, most of them, yes, IITs are also created by parliament, IIMs are also created by parliament, AIMS is also created by parliament. You can call it as in general statutory. Bar Council of India, Medical Council of India, now you don't have Medical Council of India, it's National Medical Commission. All of them are statutory bodies only. AICTE, All India Council for Technical Education, UGC, all of them. Just write some 2, 3, RBI, SEBI, TRAI, UGC, etc. Statutory body.
Something are called autonomous bodies.
Autonomous is different. I'll tell you that. That is based on nature of functioning. First, let's finish off this classification. Third one is executive body. Executive body. Executive body. As the name itself says, created by the decision of the political executive, means ministers. Created by the decision of political executive, that is ministers. That means it is not even passed by legislature. Created by the decision of the political executive, that is ministers. Example, the very famous Planning Commission, Niti Aayog. Planning Commission, you don't have it now, but both are executive bodies. Planning Commission, Niti Aayog. And have you heard, they are also called by these names. For example, executive bodies are also called as so this is other name for executive body. What do you mean by that? Non-constitutional, non-statutory body or extra non-constitutional extra statutory body. In simple words, you don't find it in constitution and you don't find where? In the acts also. That's why executive bodies are called like this. Mention that. Executive bodies are also called as. Single, same, entire one same. Executive bodies are also called as non-constitutional, non-statutory body. In simple words, not mentioned in the constitution, not mentioned in any act. Executive bodies are non-constitutional, non-statutory bodies. Non-constitutional and non-statutory bodies. Fine. So this is one classification based on how is it created. Is it created by the constitution? Is it created by an act? Is it created by a decision of executive? What he has, like, sir, what do you mean by an autonomous body, regulatory body? It is based on what do you do? What do you do? How do you function? Nature of the functioning, based on that there are, for example, have you heard there is a body called as regulatory body? Regulate matlab what? What is the meaning of regulate? Control. So RBI controls what? The name itself says RBI controls the banking system. So RBI is a banking regulatory body. SEBI controls what? Stock market, the Bombay Stock Exchanges, National Stock Exchanges. So SEBI is a stock market control body, regulatory body. IRDA, the name itself says Insurance Regulatory Development Authority. Which one do you control? Insurance market. So you are a regulatory body. So then what do you mean by autonomous? Autonomous means how independent are you from the government's control? Whatever the minister tells, do you follow that or you take your own decisions? Based on that, it is called as autonomous or non-autonomous. For example, for universities also they keep telling it's an autonomous university. Means iska matlab kya hota hai then? Ministers can't control you, you function on your own. The money will keep coming to you, you take the decisions on your own. RBI largely is a autonomous body, a regulatory body also, because if you have observed, normally government will not interfere into how RBI functions. They may, extreme circumstances. Section 7 of RBI Act, in general, government will not interfere, and even the finance minister will not interfere, prime minister will not interfere, largely. It depends, sometimes rare exceptions is different, you can't take exception as a rule. Normally it is not. SEBI is also largely the same, it is autonomous. Election Commission is what? Autonomous constitutional body. It is constitutional because it is mentioned in constitution. Why is it autonomous? Because it is independent from the control of the government. Getting autonomous means, are you independent from the government's control? Regulatory means what? What do you do? Mention, please read those differences also. Regulatory bodies.
RBI comes under the central government.
Of course, yes, Government of India.
So how does it concern with the government?
How is it concerned? Means how is it autonomous from the government? Because RBI Act 1934 itself clearly provides you that autonomy. It is based on the Act.
So the regulator reverse regulate, it is functional.
Of course, the government will take the call on its own. So not the government, the RBI will take call on its own, MPC, Monetary Policy Committee. Government has no interference there.
So autonomous bodies are statutory bodies?
Not necessary. It can be statutory, it can be executive, it can be constitutional also. That is different. That is based on your function, the nature. Constitution, it can be anything, any of the three. Now look at Election Commission. It is constitutional, but still what? Autonomous. RBI, statutory, autonomous.
CWA and CA and CMA.
CWA.
Cost and accounts, CA, chartered accounts, where comes in the.
No, chartered accountants are different. Chartered accountants are not created by government. It's, now let's say for example, there is a group called ICAI, Indian Chartered Accountants Institute. It's a group I think made by themselves. I'm not sure, but it is not created by Parliament or anything. It's your own group. Government has no control over you. ICAI. So then if it is passed by Parliament, then it is statutory body. That's what it depends on. So many bodies are there, like how you have Bar Council of India for lawyers, Medical Council of India, like that maybe ICAI. I'm not sure, but because he is telling, I'm taking it. So it is statutory body if it is passed by law of the Parliament. Of course, CAG is hugely autonomous plus constitutional. Because CAG is called as watchdog of public purse. Watchdog ka matlab you have to question the government. If you are dependent on government, how will you question them? Of course, it is autonomous, constitutional. Like Election Commission. Election Commission, you think logically. If it is not independent, how do you expect election commission to conduct free and fair election then? That's what is Supreme Court last week. Remember that judgment that you had March 7th, March 8th, some 10 days back you had a judgment saying how can you not have a selection committee for the appointment of you election commission members, that point. Okay, we'll get to that. So many are there, we'll get to know gradually. First let's write regulatory body. It is based on what? Write the definition first. It is based on the nature of functioning.
Sir, basically bodies which are not in control of the government are known as autonomous bodies.
Correct. That's it. That's what we are trying to say now. That's what we will write also. It is based on the nature of the functioning of the body. Nature of the functioning of the body. Regulatory we are writing. And what do? They regulate particular sectors of economy. They regulate, they control particular sectors of economy. Particular sectors of economy. For example, RBI regulates banking sector. For example, RBI regulates banking sector. Same. TRAI regulates telecom sector. Just write some two, it's fine. RBI regulates banking sector. TRAI regulates telecom sector. Fine. Then again clarify, regulatory body can be statute, most of them are statutory, but it can be anything. Regulatory body can be constitutional or statutory. I mean, it can be anything, executive also it can be. It can be constitutional or regulatory or statutory. Sorry, constitutional or statutory or executive. It can be constitutional or statutory or executive. Then what do you mean by autonomous bodies? Autonomous body. Again, as the name itself says, those bodies which are free, which are independent from the government's control. Those bodies which are free from government's control. Those bodies which are free from government's control. Again, what they may be? Same, they may be, most of them will be constitutional or statutory, because if it is an executive body, government will not allow them to be free. But in general, they can be constitutional or statutory or executive. Mostly the constitutional or autonomous, like Supreme Court, autonomous, like that. It can be constitutional or statutory or executive. That is also based on how free are you from government's control. Fine. These are first major basics of federalism. Now what you need to understand, okay, let's write this, just copy this. There are various descriptions of India's federalism. Then we'll discuss one after the other. Casey Ware has called it as quasi-federal. Morris Jones, bargaining federalism. Quasi means partial, Q-U-A-S-I. We'll discuss, all those we'll discuss. Sir Ivor Jennings, as I said, was the first choice for all those things, that he has described India as a federation with a strong center. Paul Appleby, a US Ford Foundation scholar, that it is extremely federal. Granville Austin, US political scholar, cooperative federalism. Cooperative federalism also is a different model. There are some 7, 8 types of federalism, which is where you get the mains question also.
So in the first classification that we did, it was mutually exclusive to each other, right? But in the second classification, it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. There can be overlaps.
Which one? The autonomous regulatory was, correct.
Can be regulatory.
Yes.
But there can't be a constitutional chapter.
No. Fine. There are still various descriptions. Granville Austin, just first note this, because it's a combination. And as they keep telling, a kind of there so many are there. In English they call it as marble cake federalism, all those things. In typical, if you want to use Hindi word, it's like a khichdi, means all mixed. Every model you find in India. No, that is overall ideology, not federalism related. Overall ideology is different. That is, you are referring to the Indian model of socialism. Indian model of socialism is a blend of Marxism plus Gandhianism, which is more tilted towards Gandhian, they call it as. Why is that? That is different. That we'll discuss in your preamble. The left-right ideology was a... How many are you from PubMed, PSR, or anybody? So that means you would have already studied left, right, one or other way you could have come socialism, all those things. Okay, so Granville Austin, cooperative federalism, then Alexandrovic calls it as, it's a sui generis model. Sui generis means it's a unique model, don't compare with other countries. Justice Beg of Supreme Court has called it as, it's an amphibian federalism. Amphibian means name itself says. Look at it. What do you mean by amphibian? Lives in water as well as same context. Means normal times India can be truly federal. But emergency times India will become truly unitary. So it can be unitary also, it can be federal also. You can live in water also, you can live in that kind of a one. That's why it is called as amphibian federalism. Fine. D.D. Basu, the very famous, the constitutional expert, even he calls it as the Sir Ivor Jennings one, or Casey Ware, that we have a very, very strong center. D.D. Basu also agrees to that. So like that, many are there. In addition, you have so many types of federalism. There are some, as I said, 7, 8. Got it? So we have to start with, as I said, I'll just list out the federalisms. You don't have to write down. Tomorrow we'll discuss all of them. First we have to understand what do you mean by quasi-federal. Then we need to understand what do you mean by symmetric federalism. Then we need to understand what do you mean by asymmetric federalism. Then cooperative federalism. Then competitive federalism. Then confrontational federalism, then fiscal federalism, then bargaining federalism. So these are your various types of federalisms. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So totally 8 types of federalisms we need to discuss. This is very important for your mains question because every year they'll ask this. No, every single year they'll ask the same question. But it might vary. Mostly it will be around these three. Sometimes it might be this also. Sometimes it might be this also. Okay, we'll discuss that tomorrow. Any doubts still here? If in case, please.
Sir, as we discussed about West Indies,
West Indies,
but they have same currency, same market, and same Supreme Court. So
that is an economic union. That is a kind of, not exactly a confederation, just a group. For example, like EU. EU also has euro. Euro as the common currency. They also have a European bank. Doesn't mean it's by definition it's just a confederation kind of a one, economically. But here in EU what will happen, same defense policy, same foreign policy, so many things will be there. In there it's not like that. Earlier they had tried, you search if you want. Earlier they tried, it has failed, and now they have some kind of a commonality. Not what we have it as in US, so many 50 states together, it's not a federation.
they have some treaty of
Yeah, correct, like that. Election? Electing an MP? Correct. That is because parliamentary system itself is based on the principle of majority party rule. Or else what will happen, you will not get that 50% number. Anybody can form the government then. Then if you go to highest numbers, let us say for example 10 parties are there. A party with even 50 seats can form the government then. Then how would you get the ministers then? So many issues will come up. The base is majority party rule for parliamentary system. That is how they divide it. Okay, fine. So think about it, revise it again. We can discuss tomorrow.